Okay, so I've been seeing quite a few YouTubers posting about fair use and issues with YouTube lately, and I feel like I have a few points to add to this dialogue. So I first came across this WTFU hashtag from a video posted by Doug Walker on Channel Awesome. He spoke about how fair use applies to YouTube and does a decent job of explaining it in a nutshell, and Boogie2988 expands upon it well. However, to my understanding, fair use, or fair dealing as it's known here in Canada, isn't actually applied until there's a legal case. I'm under the impression that YouTube's copyright system is in place to protect us from potential lawsuits, which is why it does so heavily favor the copyright holders. The fact that it considers fair use or allows claims instead of strikes is actually extremely generous. Think about how much work, time, and budget goes into a major Hollywood film compared to a small personal YouTube production. There's a pretty big difference. Essentially, the creators of these large-scale productions want their work to be perceived in a certain way, and fair use supports them in this based on the effect on the potential market. Now, don't get me wrong here, I love Doug's content. The Nostalgia Critic is a brilliantly written character and is one of the bigger examples of an internet reviewer who has greatly increased his production values over time, but he is known for being cynical about films.
What the fuck am I watching? Fuck this movie! Fuck this movie forever! I'm fucking not dating this! I'm fucking not dating!
So even when he's being fair and sharing something he enjoys, he's sort of pigeonholed as an entity that harms brands. This basically sums up this entire movement. I hate everything, your movie sucks, alpha omega sin, no offense guys, you're all super entertaining, but you're just not brand friendly, and that's a big part of your appeal. Even Boogie, one of the coolest, most level-headed guys in the world, but I can only assume the mere thought of Francis makes big brands crap their pants.
No fucking purchase! Fuck you!
I'm just speculating, but odds are these guys are just seen as unbeneficial to the creators of the content that they're borrowing. By using someone's content, you're essentially playing in their backyard. If you act up, you'll be asked to leave, or in the worst case, you'll be seen as a trespasser. If you have a reputation of ripping films apart, you'll likely have some issues as it may be perceived as harming the film's market. Most people familiar with these YouTubers know that they affect a film or piece of media's market positively, if anything, but I could see how coverage on one of these channels might be seen as harmful to certain types of brands. Also, some people just don't like to be smack-talked, which makes the parody and critique portion of fair use a fine line to walk. Team 4-Star is an example of a parody experiencing issues. They recently had their whole channel taken down. This was rectified quickly by YouTube jumping in immediately, but this is a very scary example of what can happen under the current system. Team 4-Star knows the risk just like the rest of us. They love their work, but this is just the dangerous lifestyle we YouTube content creators lead if we choose to borrow content. We also have to keep in mind that Japan doesn't have anything resembling fair use or fair dealing, so anime is always at risk of confusion and often causes issues, which makes Team 4-Star even more badass when you think about it. In Doug's example of My Neighbor Totoro, there's the added consideration that Disney is a copyright colossus here in North America. So while Studio Ghibli is magical and seems like a welcoming property to share within our culture, using it in a YouTube video comes at a massive risk as far as copyright is concerned, and it should be approached with a considerable amount of care and understanding of that risk. I managed to get a top 10 Miyazaki films video released last year without issue. It was a tense few days after uploading, and I was indeed prepared for a strike, or several at once, but I also had a lot of pride in the work that I created, and I was prepared to fight for it to the bitter end. I feel because I used a variety of source films and treated the source material with the utmost respect, and generally have done so with other films previously, I was given a pass. Fingers crossed that luck holds out for the top 10 other Studio Ghibli films I hope to release later this year. I just wanted to clarify why I think some channels are targeted more aggressively than others when it comes to these kinds of copyright claims and strikes. We all have to deal with these issues as YouTubers who borrow content, but it's generally more severe if we're overly or harshly critical because our work is seen as less fair with our use or dealing of the material. As far as the false claims against Brad and more recently I Hate Everything, this is a separate issue which definitely needs to be addressed on YouTube's end as it shows clear abuse of the system, and I can confirm these kinds of shenanigans go on at all levels of YouTube, from the smallest channel to the biggest. Some kind of penalty against the false claimant should be in order, as well as compensation for the YouTube creator affected. I feel like YouTube's been a great advocate of all of our creative freedoms and does a good job of listening and addressing our concerns when possible. I personally feel that the real fight is a legal one, and we should be offering support to YouTube in fighting for freedom among its creators instead of blaming them for doing the best they can with an archaic system and an immense amount of outside pressure. I can, however, totally get behind fighting false or fraudulent claims, or even fighting for more freedom on our end as creators. I've struggled with many copyright claims and strikes with a lot of my content, so I can totally sympathize, and I agree that more freedom is always beneficial for growth. So while YouTube's copyright system could be worse, it could also be a lot better, and I support the idea of improving it both for the cynical and non-cynical among us, for better or worse. So where's the fair use? Well, it's here. It's how most people involved survive on YouTube in the first place, but it can be worked on and improved for the benefit of everyone involved, working out the kinks and perhaps giving us creators a little bit more leeway with fair use and dealing. My name is Dragontear, and those are my thoughts. What are yours? Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching. Peace out.